Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Recovery Classroom. My name is Drew. I am an alcoholic, and today I'm a recovering alcoholic, and I cannot be any more grateful. I want to talk today about a question I've been asked an awful lot about over the last couple of weeks. It's something I actually talked about last year over the summer, but I think it's worth having another conversation about. It's a question you may have asked yourself, you may have been asked by somebody else, and it has to do specifically with the program known as AA. I consider myself a member of that fellowship. Next to my higher power, I attribute all my earthly sobriety success to that program of AA. And so I think people see that, and they see that, and so they naturally go, okay, hey, Drew, listen, is AA a cult? Is AA a cult? In 2013, whenever I first came into the rooms, I thought I might have a problem with alcohol. And so I walked in this room and I kind of heard people chanting together and praying like every prayer you could possibly think of together. I remember going to a few meetings or a meeting during that period where there was a candlelight meeting. And I remember seeing an awful lot of people in those rooms throughout the different meetings I visited. They just looked miserable. They didn't want to be there. But the most important thing for me, or the easiest excuse for me, was they kept talking about God. And so that gave me just enough to turn around and go out the door, back out the door. And other people would ask me later, hey, Drew, have you tried AA? If you think you got a problem, have you tried AA? Oh, yeah, I've tried AA, and it's a cult. No, I didn't. Why? I didn't try AA. Why would I say that? Well, see, it was easier for me to say it was a cult than to explain to somebody and convince somebody that the program was going to force me to look at myself. It took the responsibility off of me, took the onus off of me. Matter of fact, it kept me in the victim role. Oh, poor pitiful Drew, man. He's trying. He knows he's got a problem. And he's trying, but that AA thing, it's a cult, and nobody wants to be a part of the cult. Poor Drew, poor Drew, poor Drew. I think if I'm being honest, deep down inside me, there was part of me, I think I was just afraid of it actually working and me having to quit. And that's the key. That's the key. I didn't want to quit. I said I did, but I didn't want to. See, I wasn't looking for ways to change my self-destructive behaviors. I was looking for excuses to continue them. And so it was just easier for me to call it a cult because, again, no work required. I didn't have to prove anything to anybody. And I think it's fascinating. Even now, I have non-alcoholics come up to me. And I'll say, yeah, I got sober. I'm an alcoholic. I'm in recovery. AA worked for me. They say, well, I thought AA was a cult. How would you know? If you're not an alcoholic, and chances are you probably haven't worked the steps. And if you haven't worked the steps, and chances are you probably haven't been to a meeting. So how would you know? What authority would you just automatically assume that it might be a cult? That's like me giving you car advice, car repair advice. I'm not the guy to give car repair advice. But in order for us to understand why people might consider it a cult, we have to go back in time and look at the history of it. You had Bill Wilson in New York. You had Bob Smith up in Akron, Ohio. You had Clarence Snyder over in Cleveland, up in Cleveland. They all three had three distinct and different meetings. They generally ran the same, but they had enough differences to where you could differentiate between the meetings, of course. Over time, members from those meetings branched out and started creating other meetings that operated similarly but different. Those two had their differences, and next thing you know, you have all these meetings that are handing down these practices year after year, meeting after meeting, state after state, alcoholic after alcoholic, and those practices eventually became dogma. And so naturally, one day somebody walks into a meeting that's just like, oh, okay, this is kind of weird, and they automatically assume that this one meeting represents the whole. And that's not fair. To me, it doesn't make sense. Why would I be judging the whole based upon just one meeting or just a few meetings? That's not fair at all. I think at the end of the day, it comes down to priority, though. What is your priority? Eventually, I reached a point where my sobriety became the priority over my excuses, over my inability to take responsibility and be honest with myself. And then let me pose this question too. Are we all not part of a cult to some degree? Were we not part of a cult whenever we were actively using or drinking? I know when I drank, I like to hang out with other people who drank. When you were using, you might like to hang out with other people who were using, right? You might like to hang out with your drug dealer. And then take the substance out of it. Hell, don't we all just naturally like to hang out with people that we all have a common interest in? Like, I like to hang out with people who like baseball. You might like to hang out with people who like football. Why are we demonizing a group of people that are just wanting to meet and try to help provide for the betterment of the collective whole? Why would we do that? Again, I think at the end of the day, it comes down to priority. AA is what you decide to make it. See, I wanted to use AA as an excuse today, it's been my saving grace. It's what's kept me sober. You know, we can call it whatever we want, but my priority is my sobriety. And for my sobriety, I have to work the program known as Alcoholics Anonymous, because again, that's the only thing that has worked for me. You can call it a cult. I'll call it a cure. I'll let you guys go. Thank you guys for letting me come in and share 5 to 10 minutes of your day with you. You guys absolutely keep me sober, and I cannot be any more appreciative. If there's a topic you'd like to hear discussed, drop it into an email to me, Drew, D-R-E-W, at recoveryclassroom.org. I'll take a look at it and see what we can do. We'll be talking again soon. Remember, guys, you can't get drunk if you don't take that first drink.